Into Joshua chapter 15. Joshua 13 and 14, we talked about how we started in on the distribution of the land, the inheritance. The inheritance to the 12 tribes. And so right now, basically, you're sitting in a title office, and Joshua is going to be presiding over and is handing out that distribution. So most of the next several chapters are tedious, listing of cities and locations and boundaries. And that's important because you want to know if you're a tribe, if you're a member of a tribe, you want to know what land is yours and what land, where your family's going to be living, and what the challenges ahead for you are, because this is where you're going to be living. This is where your promised portion of the promised land is located, and so this is where we're going to be talking about. So we talked about last week. We reviewed over Reuben and Gad and the half tribe of Manasseh on the east side of the Jordan River. And then we went on to talk about the inheritance of Caleb. Inheritance of Caleb. And so what did he inherit?
Hebron.
Hebron, the city of Hebron. And so we're going to revisit with Caleb a little bit later. But now, where do you think Joshua is going to put his focus on?
Tribes on this side.
Tribes on the western side of the Jordan River. That's correct. So 9.5 tribes. We're going to have to talk about 9.5 tribes. Maybe we'll get through one of those tribes tonight, hopefully. But we're going to talk about the tribe of Judah. The tribe of Judah. So Joshua chapter 15 and verse 1. Joshua 15 and verse 1. This then was the lot of the tribe of the children of Judah by their families. So we're going to talk about the tribe of Judah. Tribe of Judah. So Judah was the first to receive an inheritance, and as the largest tribe, her portion exceeded that of any of the others. So let's go quickly. Remember, Jacob gave some prophecies before he died while he was in Egypt, and so some of those prophecies here are actually coming to being fulfilled by the inheritance that Judah is going to be given. So first of all, we find in Jacob's prophecies that Judah will be surrounded by her enemies. Judah will be surrounded by her enemies. Number 1. Genesis 49:8. Judah, thou art he whom thy brothers shall praise. Thy hand shall be in the neck of thine enemies. Thy father's children shall bow before thee. Judah is a lion's whelp from the prey. My son, thou art gone up. He stooped down. He couched as a lion. Who shall rose him up? So there's going to be enemies on all sides. Edom and Egypt and so forth. They're going to be all around him. He's going to have borders of enemies. The Moabites on the east, the Edomites on the south, the Amalekites in the southwest, the Philistines to the west. Judah will need strong leaders. And as you know, Scripture goes forward, and we know King David will be part of the leaders in King Solomon coming from Judah, tribe of Judah. One of the second things we notice here in Jacob's prophecy is the land will be ideally suited for planting vineyard. Most of it, we'll find, is going to be desert, but there's going to be some very nice areas for vineyards, and that's
plenty what?
Vineyards. So Genesis 49:11, binding his foal unto the vine and his donkey's colt unto the choice vine, he washed his garments in wine and his clothes in the blood of grapes. His eyes shall be red with wine and his teeth white with milk. So he's going to get some very nice choice land and part of his inheritance. Again, we'll talk about there's going to be a lot of wilderness and desert land, but he's going to have some very nice choice land that's going to fulfill this promise. It was from the Judean valley that the spies cut down the gigantic clusters of grapes. We will go back to the 12 spies. The next thing we find is Judah is the tribe that Jesus will come from. Judah is the tribe that Jesus will come from. He will be the Savior of the world. He's coming from the tribe of Judah. Genesis 49:10, the scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet unto Shiloh come, and unto him shall be the gathering of the people be. So a little bit of review on some of Jacob's prophecies for Judah. We're going to talk about the southern boundary. Judah's southern boundary. Joshua 15:1. This then was the lot of the tribe of the children of Judah by their families, even to the border of Edom. The wilderness of Zin. Southward was the uttermost part of the south coast, and their south border was from the shore of the Salt Sea. So the Salt Sea is the Dead Sea. When I look up, I lose my place here. From the bay, then look at southward, and it went out to the south side to Malkabrabim and passed along to Zin and ascended up on the south side of Gadesh Barnea and passed along Hezron up to Adar and fetched a compass to Karka. From thence it passed toward Asmon and went out to the river of Egypt, and the goings out of that coast were at the sea. This shall be your south coast. So basically from the Salt Sea and down here to the wilderness of Zin and over here to the brook of Egypt. This is not the Nile River, but we call that the brook, this particular creek, the brook of Egypt. And so down here in this wilderness area is their southern boundary. So basically from the south end of the Dead Sea to the river of Egypt. The second, the eastern boundary, Joshua 15:5, and the east border was the Salt Sea, moving on to the end of the Jordan, and their border in the north quarter was from the bay of the sea at the uttermost part of the Jordan. So the Jordan dumped into the Salt Sea, or what we call today the Dead Sea. So the Jordan comes here. So from where the Jordan River comes in, the Salt Sea is its eastern boundary. Next, we can look at the northern boundary. I probably should advance my slides. So there's the Salt Sea slide. Here's the northern boundary slide. So a lot of names. Not necessarily it's going to be a straight line across from the Jordan River and the Dead Sea all the way to the Mediterranean Sea, but there's going to be cities and names. That's where we get the curved boundary here. So the northern boundary, verse 5, and the east border was the Salt Sea, even unto the end of Jordan, and their border in the north quarter was from the bay of the sea at the uttermost part of the Jordan. And the border went up to Beth Gala. So here where the Jordan River comes in, here's Beth Gala. And passed along by the north of Beth Araba. And the border went out to the stone of Bohan, the son of Reuben. Now this is quite interesting. Bohan, the son of Reuben. Where was Reuben's inheritance? The other side. So right now, talking about a marker known as the stone of Bohan. Anybody know who Bohan was? Well, he was the son of Reuben, or a descendant of Reuben, nonetheless. So this is kind of a mystery. So when the famine occurred and Joseph was in Egypt and the brothers went down to get, the grain for the family, and Joseph introduced himself, hey, bring the family down, bring dad down, and you can live here, live in style. So we find that 70 of his brothers and dad and wives and grandchildren, nephews and nieces and nephews came, right? Well, apparently there may have been more than 70 in the family that stayed in this area. And maybe apparently one of those names was Bohan, who would have been maybe another son of Reuben or a descendant of Reuben. And he had a stone, a marker there. And this was a well-known location, well-known marker that was there. And so maybe there would have been some remnant of the Israelites living in the land of Canaan, while the rest of the family was in Egypt. But that's what we surmise, right? Because there's no indication that Reuben would have come on over from the east side and settled on the west side. And why is this stone here known as a marker? But quite interesting. Bohan, the son of Reuben, we're using his stone as a physical marker to know where the boundary line is between Judah and Benjamin. Verse 7, and the border went up from Debir, from the valley of Achor. And so there's going to be two Debirs, one here what we're talking about, and the one that we talk about south of Hebron. So this is the northern Debir, from the valley of Achor, and so northward looking toward Gilgal. So Gilgal's up here where the headquarters is. So if you're looking toward Gilgal, you'll find out where the valley of Achor is. And so northward looking toward Gilgal, that is before the going up to Adamon, which is on the south side of the river, and the border passed toward the waters of Eshemesh, and the goings out thereof were at En Rogel. So we're making our way through here. Eshemesh is near Jerusalem. And the border went up by the valley of the son of Hinnom unto the south side of the Jebusite, the same as Jerusalem. And the border went up to the town of the mountain that lieth before the valley of Hinnom, westward, which is at the valley of the giants, northward. And the border was drawn from the top of the hill unto the fountain of the water of Naphtah, and went out to the cities of Mount Ephraim. And the border was drawn to Bela, which is Kirjath Jearim. So we're making our way further to the west. And the border compassed from Bela westward unto Mount Seir, and passed along unto the side of Mount Jearim, which is Chesalon, on the north side, and went down to Bethshemesh, and passed on to Timnah. So we're heading further to the east. And the border went down the outside of Ekron northward, and the border was drawn to Shikron, and passed along to Mount Bela, and went unto Jabneel, and the goings out of the border were at the sea. So we get all the way to the Mediterranean Sea. So you can see how we use these markers to twist and wind our way over to form that boundary between one tribe and another. So the northern boundary is the north end of the Dead Sea to the Mediterranean Sea. And it seems like the area of Jerusalem, the greater Jerusalem, is going to be divided by Judah and Benjamin. So the western boundary, what do you think the western boundary is?
Great Sea.
The Great Sea, the Mediterranean Sea. That makes it easy. Verse 12, and the west border was to the Great Sea and the coast thereof. This is the coast of the children of Judah round about according to their families. So the Great Sea, the Mediterranean Sea, is the western boundary. I mean, you can't really go to any further west, can you?
No.
And so that is the boundaries of Judah, the boundaries of Judah. All right, we're going to jump to Caleb again, verse 13. And unto Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, he gave a part among the children of Judah, according to the commandment of the Lord to Joshua, even the city of Arba, the father of Anak, which is the city Hebron. Well, we already talked about this in verse 14. Why is Joshua bringing up Caleb again? Well, Caleb is within the tribe of Judah, and so Hebron is within Judah. But we're going to find out a little bit more. So number one here, Caleb was given Hebron for his inheritance. We know that. Number two, Caleb drove out the sons of Anak. Verse 14, and Caleb drove thence the three sons of Anak, Shishaiah, Ahiman, and Talmud. Children over the battles for the promised land for Canaan, where he drove, where all the giants were driven out, except for Gaza and two other locations. And so here we have part of that story of some of the giants being driven out by Caleb. Remember, Caleb chose Hebron not because it was easy, but because it was hard. He knew the giants were there, and the giants were the ones he'd been looking to get after ever since he was one of the spies 45 years earlier. All right, so there's these three sons that are living in Hebron. These three sons of Anak, and so you like to have definitions. So Shishaiah means noble.
Oh.
What do you have?
Well, I found in two different places it was 6, mercy, and flax.
Yep.
And you said it was what?
I have noble.
Noble?
Noble.
Well, which name is noble?
Shishaiah.
Shishaiah. It's Sheshai.
Again, S-H.
Eshai. Ahiman means my brother's a gift.
Well, I have brother of the right hand. My brother's a gift. What verse are you in now?
Verse 14.
Which name dictionary are you using?
So I use Bible.net, and there's a lexicon there that I use that translates all the words back to
What'd you say,
Hebrew.
my brother's what?
My brother is a gift.
What's it?
My brother is a gift.
Ahiman is my brother's gift.
Mm-hmm. Kind of an odd name to name your son, huh? My brother is the gift. I am not the gift. Talmaev means furrowed. Furrowed.
Oh, I got my furrow. It also said heap of waters, that suspends the waters.
Makes no sense. Huh?
No, but furrow, I had furrow.
All right, so Caleb drives out these guys in Hebron. Verse 15, and he went up thence to the inhabitants of Debir, and the name of Debir therefore was Kirjath Jasper. I want to have a Hebron, Kirjath Jasper. And Caleb said, he that smiteth Kirjath Jasper and taketh it, to him will I give Achsah, my daughter, to wife. All right, so eventually we're gonna jump to Judges real quick, but the storyline here jumps out of place, right? Joshua's giving the inheritance, and now what's being inserted here is a story that's gonna take place later, right? Because Caleb is not conquering right now because the inheritance is all being given out. But Caleb has driven out the giants from Hebron. And so right now he wants to encourage the next generation to have the same boldness that he does. And so he wants somebody else to take Kirjath Jasper, which is now known as Debir. Okay? And so what does he offer as an incentive? His daughter. His daughter. Like Kirjath Jasper, what does that city mean? Kirjath apparently means city, and Sefer means book, so city of the book. City of the book. Huh?
Must have been learners.
Yeah, right. That's where the library was, right?
Right.
I don't know. Or at least there was one book there. So Caleb is 85 years old, wants to encourage his faith and boldness in others to take the land. And so he also wants to make sure his daughter has a worthy husband. He doesn't give my daughter to any man who's just going to be lazy. I want somebody who's going to show up and take charge and kick the bad guys out of the land. So he has this as a challenge. So his daughter's name is Achsah. Achsah? What do you think Achsah means?
I found adorned.
Adorned?
Bursting the veil.
Okay. This one, what definition I found means ankle chain or anklet. Anklet, which you're adorned with, something. So, anklet. So the story here is also recounted in Judges, or I guess maybe vice versa, but Judges chapter 1. Now after the death of Joseph, it came to pass that the children of Israel asked the Lord, saying, who shall go up against the Canaanites first to fight against them? Jumping to verse 10. And Judah went against the Canaanites that dwelt in Hebron. Now the name of Hebron before was Kirjath Arba. And they slew Shisha and Ammon and Talmah. And so this is pointing out that all this is happening after Joshua has died. And from thence he went against the inhabitants of Debir, and the name of Debir therefore was Kirjath Jasper. And Caleb said, he that smiteth Kirjath Jasper, and taketh it, to him will I give Achsah my daughter to wife. And so here we're back up to speed of where we are in our story, and it's being repeated in Joshua and in Judges. Now, jumping back to Joshua 15:17, who wins the girl? Othniel. And Othniel, the son of Kenaz, the brother of Caleb, took it, and he gave him Achsah, his daughter, to wife. So this man, Othniel, stepped up to the challenge. He steps up to the challenge. What does his name mean?
The hour of God.
The hour of God, right? Like a lion of God. Also found God is my strength. We know that God is in his name because of El. So a very strong, manly name. Lion of God, God is my strength. We see that his father was Kenaz. And the way we read here that Kenaz is Caleb's brother. Some have interpreted that maybe this is Caleb's half-brother or some sort of relation other than, say, uncle and nephew type of relationship. But we're just going to read it as simple as that this is Caleb is Othniel's uncle. But others may interpret it something different than that. But anyway, a close family member, right? Kenaz, do we have a definition for Kenaz?
No, I didn't look him up.
Kenaz means hunter. Kenaz means hunter.
How do you spell his name?
K-E-N-A-Z. K-E-N-A-Z.
He was the father of.
He was the father of Othniel.
And Caleb's brother.
Right. Verse 13. It says, and Othniel, the son of Kenaz, Caleb's younger brother, took it, and he gave him Achsah, his daughter, to wife. Now, jumping back to Joshua 15:18, and it came to pass as she came unto him that she moved him to ask of her father a field, and she lighted off her donkey, and Caleb said unto her, what wouldest thou? Who answered, give me a blessing. For thou hast given me a south land, to give me also springs of water. And he gave her the upper springs and the nether springs. So upper and lower springs. So we see Othniel is granted additional land with springs. And jumping back to Judges, verse 14, Judges chapter 1, verse 14. It came to pass when she came to him that she moved him to ask of her father a field, and she lighted off her donkey, and Caleb said unto her, what wilt thou? And she said unto him, give me a blessing. For thou hast given me a south land, give me also springs of water. And Caleb gave her the upper springs and the nether springs. And we have an additional offering, gift to Othniel and his bride Achsah. So some interesting things about Othniel. What else do we know about Othniel?
He was
Became a judge.
Yeah, he became Israel's first judge, and Judah, the only judge from the tribe of Judah. Judges 3:9, and when the children of Israel cried unto the Lord raised up a deliverer to the children of Israel. Who delivered them? Even Othniel, the son of Kenaz, Caleb's younger brother. The Spirit of the Lord came upon him, and he judged Israel, and he went out to war, and the Lord delivered Cushar-Anashathaim, king of Mesopotamia, into his hand, and his hand prevailed against Cushar-Anashathaim. And the land had rest 40 years, and Othniel, the son of Kenaz, died.
Speaking in tongues.
Yeah. All right. Cushar-Anashathaim. What does that name mean?
What was it?
You want me to pronounce the name again?
Or spell it?
That's going to take the whole hour to stop. All right, so this name means twice wicked Cushite. Twice wicked. Can you believe that? To be you're a king and your name means doubly wicked.
Wow.
Doubly wicked. Yikes! He was a bad guy. And so God used him to oppress the tribe of Judah. And so when they finally called out to the Lord sent Othniel to be the judge and then deliver this king into his hand. And then things were good for the next 40 years until Othniel died. So Othniel is a judge. So when we move on from Joshua and goes into Judges, you already got a head start. All right, we find he has two sons. He had two sons. 1 Chronicles 4:13. And the son of Kenaz, Othniel, and Sariah, the sons of Othniel, Haphath, and Menothai. The first one is Hathath. Hathath. Do we have a definition for Hathath?
I found fear.
Fearful, yeah, that's what I got. And the other one, Meonothai. Thigh.
Right? They just said there's no Hebrew name, meaning for his name.
Oh, I have my habitations. My habitations. So it seems he had two sons. All right, let's turn to Axa. What can we learn from Axa? This is a very fascinating lady. We don't have a lot on her, but we can definitely see a lot. I found a comparison. One commentary I was reading pointed out that Axa may have been the example King Solomon used to write Proverbs 31. Proverbs 31, of course, is the proverb that's all about the woman and all the wonderful things and all the great things a woman can do. And of course, there's a lot to live up to for a lady in Proverbs chapter 31. But it may, this particular commentary seems to indicate that Solomon may have chose Axa as that example. So one of the things we find here is Axa was a good businesswoman. Axa was a good businesswoman. Notice she learned a lot from her father Caleb, right? Caleb was bold to go and say, Joshua, remember, I'm doing inheritance. And remember, 45 years later, Caleb is the one that's standing and saying, no, this is a good land. We need to go in and take it because the Lord has given to us. And Caleb has kept faith with the Lord that whole time. Well, his daughter sees all that. And his daughter is bold as he is. So she's now married to Othniel and says, hey, we need to ask my father for some land. Let's get some springs here. So she was a good Muslim person. She knew that the land would now be worth much more than before. She knew Othniel would be able to take care of a very large household. Caravans would be able to stop and water their animals. Travels would be able to bring trade. So if you controlled the water, you controlled the comings and goings of people, right? And so she wanted some springs. So Proverbs 31:14, she is like the merchant ship. She bringeth her food from afar. Proverbs 31:16, she considers the field and buyeth it. With the fruit of her hand, she planteth a vineyard. So Axa was a good businesswoman.
Yeah, and the water would also be good for the
Right.
agriculture.
Everything, right? It was absolutely necessary, especially in the area that they were living in, right? They were living in the south. And that's what she's saying. I only have south, I have wilderness land, desert land. I need something else. And so she got these springs. Number two, her husband trusted her. Her husband trusted her. Proverbs 31:11, the heart of her husband trusted her, and he will have no lack of gain. Othniel let Axa ask her father for the land with the springs. Her husband trusted her. Perhaps this is because he knew that his wife had learned courage, strength, and fortitude from her father. We don't know how old Axa was when the Israelites reached the promised land, but she must have watched her father all of her life, being one of the bravest, strongest, and most faithful of men. She certainly learned her boldness at the knee of an expert. Perhaps she was the apple of her father's eye as a fearless daughter. And number three, her husband was known in the gates. Her husband was known in the gates. For Proverbs 31:23, her husband is known in the gates when he sits among the elders of the land. There is an amazing thing. Truly, this husband of Axa was well known in the gates as the first judge of Israel. We have a continuation of the story of Caleb, Axa, and Othniel as we read in Judges, but we find Caleb, how he feared and trusted the Lord passed right on to his son-in-law Othniel, right? And so there's a connection there. And so Axa is the wife of the first judge. And so we have a lot we can glean from Axa. But we don't, and my notes did not get copied on this particular version. So here's Othniel's tomb. It's in Hebron. You can, you may not be able to go visit it today because it's Palestinian controlled. But apparently there's a little alcove here where some students are buried back, students from back in the day, But this has been well known as Othniel's tomb, Othniel's cave. And of course, building of churches built on top of it and so forth. when Jews have permission, they can go and pray there. Caleb is also buried in Hebron. And so here's Caleb's tomb. So you can apparently lay your hands on his sarcophagus. So Caleb is also buried in Hebron. We don't hear anything more about Caleb, but we do know he feared the Lord. All right, it is 9 o'clock, and we've got tons of cities to name through. So either, well, we don't have to name through them. We can go quickly through the cities here. Unless you want me to list them all out. All right, so the the rest of chapter 15 is all cities, the cities of Judah. So number one, in Joshua 15, 20 through 23, we have 29 towns plus their villages listed. And these towns, it's broken up. Basically, we're breaking up, the cities are broken up into different, what's called quadrants, but the cities of the south, and so these are the cities that are listed in those verses there, the southern cities, 29 of those cities. But interestingly, if you were to read through verses 20 through 32, you would say, Peter, there are more than 29 listed. How many are you doing that right now? Because there are 36 listed. This is true, there are 36 listed. That's because 7 of those cities will later be given to the tribe of Simeon. 7 of those will be given to the tribe of Simeon. Verses 33 through 47 lists 42 towns. And here it's easier just to show you than to read them, right? I'm sure you get tired of me reading these. But here are the western cities that are listed. These are all the towns that are already there in place that the tribe of Judah, the children of Judah, will go in and just inhabit. Right? Clean it up and have it. The city's already in place. The amazing thing is that when the Lord gives you something, it's already intact, ready to go. So here are all these towns, infrastructure already in place. They just have to clean it out. So 42 towns are in the west. Verses 48 through 60 are the towns in the central hill country. This is the mountain ridge through here. Right? It goes down to the Dead Sea, the lowest part of the earth. So these are the towns in the central ridge. So 38 towns are mentioned here. Verses 61 through 62 are 6 towns mentioned in the wilderness right along the Dead Sea. And we find Judah will inhabit, Judah will inhabit over 100 cities, and will have no difficulty occupying the cities with the exception of Jerusalem. With the exception of Jerusalem. So jumping all the way to verse 63, we did that fast, didn't we? Verse 63, and for the Jebusites and the inhabitants of Jerusalem, the children of Judah could not drive them out. But the Jebusites dwell with the children of Judah at Jerusalem unto this day. Not until we get to Samuel and King David do we find that the Jebusites are finally driven out. So here, Jerusalem, they were able to drive out the Jebusites. And so the tribe of Judah inherits the largest part of the land. They're the largest tribe. They are going to have 100 cities ready for them. And the portion remains that Jerusalem is still unconquered. And so it kind of leaves Judah as an inheritance on a bad note. But tonight we learned about Othniel and Achsah. What an amazing couple they are. And we can glean a lot from just a little bit of information from them. All right, so that's the tribe of Judah. We'll go on to the tribe of Joseph and his 2 sons' inheritances 2 weeks from now. All right, anybody comments, questions? Yeah.
What was the amount for number 4?
6. The 6 towns in the wilderness. All right, let's close in prayer. Dear Father, we thank you for tonight, Lord. We thank you for Othniel and Achsah, the example they are, and Caleb, Lord, of being bold and being bold enough to ask what's on their heart, Lord. Lord, may we go to you for all things. Lord, we thank you for your promise and keeping your promises. Lord, may you bless us as we go our separate ways, keep us safe. And Lord, may we have a wonderful Thanksgiving. We look forward to our safe return 2 weeks from now. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you.